January 14th, the CFU Insider. Let's get into it. For today's episode, the race of power. The news today was Supreme Court Tariff Showdown. Day number 2, no decision. Here's a curious one that came across the news feed today. SpaceX is going to have to do an emergency return to Earth for Crew 11. Crew 11 is going to have to abort their mission. They will not be able to complete it, and they have to return. Why? It's for a medical emergency. But they're not exactly saying what that medical emergency is. That splashdown return is going to happen tomorrow, January 15th. Wish that astronaut well and a safe return. So NASA has a problem here. They want to set up a lunar base up on the moon. However, part of the problem that you have with the moon is that you have 14 days when solar power would completely fail. The only way that you can have power during that dark side of the moon for 14 days is to put up a Westinghouse micro reactor. So they're thinking of putting a nuclear reactor to power any lunar base mission. So the future is nuclear, even on the moon. So currently right now, you could go order a Tesla and you had the option to add for $8,000 full self-drive. That would be a one-time payment, never have to pay again. Recently, though, they have introduced the $100 a month subscription fee, which enables full self-drive in your Tesla. I myself have a Tesla, and I also have the $100 full self-drive subscription. It's fantastic. So for $100 a month, you can have supervised full self-drive, which is what we have today. And if you're willing to pay $200 a month, you get unsupervised full self-drive. Yeah, that's going to be very lucrative for Tesla and also desirable to have, because then you can literally just sit in your car and do whatever you want, scroll on your phone, talk with people, play games, take a nap. Because in essence, you've enabled the robotaxi or cybercab functionality of full self-drive. Grok. So speaking of Grok and full self-drive and all the AI that's coming under fire here with Elon Musk. So there's a bit of a problem where you can give Grok prompts and it'll come back with realistic images. It doesn't take too much of an imagination to think that there's going to be somebody out there who's going to have a nefarious intent, do something bad, and come up with an image that maybe very much looks like a celebrity or somebody that they don't like or a public person. And they're able to do whatever they want to that person. I don't think it takes much for your imagination to imagine just what that might be. Well, Grok is, under their banner of free speech, allowing this to happen. What is permitted, what is not, and what comes under free speech? I think we can all agree there has to be a line, because we do that publicly right now today. There has to be a line where you can't generate a certain image and share that image. So Elon's move said, well, okay, fine. What we're going to do is we're going to ban image generation for those that are not behind the paywall. So if you paid for Grok AI, you'll still be able to generate images. Regulators don't really like that, though, because that's not enough. Just because you're paying for the service doesn't mean you're not going to be able to make those images, and you could also share them. Especially if you go in, just do it really quick, do an hour or a day before they catch you, and then you've got the images anyway. So they need to come up with a better legal regulatory framework on that. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting, and it causes the image like we have here shows a minefield of regulation. You got the US saying one thing, you got the UK and European Union saying another. So the European Union is moving towards banning Grok AI, and they're going to start issuing fines if you continue to use it, and especially if you go through the VPN circumvent. But where it gets a little conflict of interest, though, is on the US side. They're actually adopting Grok and XAI to help with military and national security. So there's an absolute cluster, if you will, of just the regulatory, legality, red tape, difficulty to get through this. But, Elon Musk is at the helm and he'll see it through and he'll get this sorted out one way or another. So curious how that all works out, especially because with XAI, I do actually want to buy some of those IPO shares when it comes out either later this year or maybe next. Nvidia gets a Chinese deal. So the deal structure is that Nvidia can sell their H200 AI chip to China. However, it comes with some strings attached, but I think those strings are very good for everyone. The US has capped Chinese sales or exports to China of the H200 chip at 50%. If the US orders 100 units of the H200 chip, then China can order 50 units of that. US will always have more chips than the Chinese. Second of all, you have to complete your US shipments first. So there can never be a delay to a US customer or to a US address because of Chinese demand. So serve the US first. That would also give the Chinese a very high incentive to come up with their own solution in the meantime. But this is the one I think actually is really good, and it shows Trump's creativity with making deals. So when Nvidia sells an H200 chip to China, Nvidia has to pay a 15 to 25% revenue share with the US government. Very good. So the US government is ensured that they're going to get some revenues off of this, and they're always going to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the Chinese AI battle that they have going on here. So kudos, I think, to everyone. So China gets their chips, and the US gets to stay ahead, and the US gets some revenue to boot. If you know about ASML, lithography. So this one here, ASML and Intel are having a nanoscale battle, and they've joined forces on this. Intel has bought machinery totaling about $380 million for one machine. This is ASML's next generation EUV lithography system. If you know anything about lithography, they need this in order to manufacture and fabricate the silicon or the semiconductor chips that are necessary in all of the AI systems that we're using today. The competition gets to be how small can we make these transistors? And this machine that Intel has bought from it allows the 14A chip process. The 14A chip process enables 1.4 nanometer transistor size. It makes your human hair look like planet Earth. Intel will be the first one to do this inside the US, although I don't think TSMC is going to be far behind, as TSMC has agreed to build 5 fabrication plants in Arizona State. A lot of competition is going to come stateside for manufacturing chips, and I think that's a big win for the United States. It's a win for Intel. They're going to get competitive again. They're going to get down into the 1.4 nanometer. That's going to force TSMC to do the same. And lo and behold, behind all of this, ASML is going to be the benefactor on both of them, because they're the only one in the entire world that manufactures the machinery to enable this chip manufacturing process. I like ASML a lot. I am a shareholder of ASML. And if you're interested in learning more about ASML, just, do your normal due diligence, look around, and if you like it, jump in on some shares. TSMC, tomorrow's big reveal. I also am a shareholder of TSMC. I don't like Intel. I prefer TSMC over Intel, but I do think that was a good move by Intel to buy that machinery and that equipment and to bring it stateside. The estimate that we have right now is 2.896 earnings per share and revenue of 33 billion. So if we get something higher than that, that's going to be a good signal. Anything lower than that floor of 33 billion would be not the best indicator, and the shares could pull back quite a bit. I think investors are looking for a very positive report from TSMC, and we're also going to be looking for their forward guidance. What's going to be coming down the pipe? How is their order book looking? If they're not getting a good order book from the likes of Nvidia, AMD, etc., you could really see the AI playbook sell off. TSMC makes those chips for Nvidia, Qualcomm, almost the entire ecosystem of chip manufacturers and semiconductors. Palantir, another company that I invest in and I think actually has a really good moat, and they're doing incredible things. I know they're controversial. A lot of people don't like them for their involvement with ICE and some of their military involvement. Palantir is also a company that I invest in, and I think they're a fantastic play for AI. They're very unique in their approach, and I think they got a long runway ahead of them and a lot of upside. What they're reporting is that there's a lot of companies that, instead of hiring or expanding teams with human employees, they've decided to start hiring AI employees instead. This is interesting. They're hiring these people to do data analysis, report generation, maybe some coding. They'd make real-time decisions, and they also work without taking any breaks. It's very compelling. What they're seeing is the contracts that they're signing for this has a 68% renewal rate or also expansion. So Palantir doesn't make a lot of sales, just like when they do make a sale, it's usually a large contract. And a lot of the contracts that they're signing are being renewed and also expanded. They're buying more features from Palantir. They like what they're getting. AI agents are replacing entire teams. This is a pattern that's going to continue forward. We've already seen this. In the US, our productivity has surged. The last 2 quarters have been positive, 4.1 and 4.3 productivity gains, but yet we're doing it with less employees. Why is that? Well, we don't know exactly why because companies won't say precisely why they are being more productive with less people. But there is an idea that maybe it's because of AI. Another cool thing too is that Palantir's AI doesn't just take orders and give you a decision. They actually act and they do things like a normal employee would do. So that's very powerful for a lot of corporations and big companies that we have. This is a cool one. There are certain math problems that have puzzled the human mind for not just years, but decades. And there was an old math problem that took humankind 30 years to solve. This was problem number 397, Erdos problem. ChatGPT 5.2 Pro solved it in 15 minutes. It took us, humankind, 30 years to find the solution for this. Not only did it solve it in 15 minutes, but it didn't do it by referencing any other data sources. It did it straight by computation analysis and solving the math problem. This is Terence Toe. He's a Fields medalist, and he certified that the answer to the math problem was true and correct. That's how complex this math problem is that it actually requires specialist mathematicians to verify the proof. That's what's so crazy about this math problem is the field medalist Terence Toe in order to verify that the solution is correct and thorough enough. That's how complex this math problem was. And it's just cool that ChatGPT 5.2 did it in 15 minutes. In November 2024, if you remember correctly, Bitcoin was at $96,000 US. It was so close to breaking 100,000. And then it actually did. And we actually hit our all-time high on October 6, 2025. We hit 296. So that currently is the all-time high. After that, we go from October 2025 to November 2025. So barely a month later, it got down to $80,000. And I think some of you listeners and viewers were able to witness that and feel that also in your portfolio. That kind of hurt. But we're seeing it already start to cover. January 14th is at $96,000 US. When I was pulling the chart off this is my chart for Bitcoin. You can see my trend line going down. It wasn't doing so hot, but then it's been breaking through, and we've had a couple of buy signals come on for that as well. So there it is. It's at $97,500 at the point when I took the screenshot here. And what's driving this? Well, Wall Street money is starting to come back. They like the Bitcoin narrative. I think Michael Saylor's done a fantastic job lately on some podcasts and telling everyone how radical and amazing Bitcoin is. And we also had $750 million flow into the ETFs just yesterday. So IBIT recorded an inflow of $750 million. That's going to drive the price up and get us closer and closer to reaching a new all-time high. Google just hit an all-time high, 340.49 cents. They're finding out that Gemini is fantastic. If you haven't used Gemini yet or given it a shot, it doesn't cost anything. Go give it a shot. Google's finding that when people are searching and working with Gemini, it's not eating into their revenue for Google searches. Ad revenue is actually going up, and cloud growth is also accelerating with it. So Google took a bit of a bet by releasing Gemini, and it's a fantastic model. They're actually seeing that it's having a positive effect on all fronts for them. If you go into your apps on your Google homepage, up in the top right corners, all those little dots, click on that, open up your apps, scroll to the bottom, you'll see this funky little icon notebook. Open that up. It's amazing. You can upload PDFs. You can generate podcasts. You can generate slide decks. You can generate infographics, reports, flashcards. It's really good. And what it does is it allows you to congregate a whole bunch of data together for yourself and generate that content for yourself. It's fantastic. Micron, the memory bottlenecks. So we're hitting a lot of bottlenecks, and I hope through this video and previous videos that I've done, you've got the sense that we're hitting some bottlenecks. And if we can invest in those companies that will solve those bottlenecks and unlock value, Nvidia GPUs are useless without HBM memory. HBM memory is high bandwidth memory. Micron is the only US supplier keeping pace with demand. A lot of the others are falling off, like Samsung and SK Hynix. But they are saying that they're going to be able to get back in and satisfy the demand by increasing their supplies. So just keep an eye on Micron. It's a fantastic stock. They have a great advantage there with US. Tomorrow, that's the big one, is TSMC earnings. We want to find out how Taiwan Semiconductor is going. What's their order book like? What's their guidance for the foreseeable year? We have the Grok decision. See if EU regulators going to make a decision on Grok and possibly ban it in the App Store. Bitcoin. Some of the prediction markets are saying with good certainty, high degree of probability that we will hit 98K. This year is Intel's comeback. They're going to go 2 nanometer with the long-term goal of getting down to that 1.4 nanometer. Bottom line, 2026 is going to be a tech boom if we can get out of January with positive returns in January. The next 2 or 3 days are going to be telling, and TSMC is going to be kicking that off for us. Okay. Let's get into some of the trades that we did with CFU today. So if you're a CFU member, thank you for being a CFU member, and we appreciate everyone who's in our vibrant community. Right now, we're at 987 members, which is amazing, and we're looking to get growing here in the next few weeks, get back above 1,000 active members. So Colgate, this is one of the positions that we opened here today. We're going to take a bullish position on it. We're going to hold that long-term through the year. And again, if you're looking for details on these trades and you're a CFU member, just go into the Discord, look into the trade alerts under Kyle, Uzi, or our systems, and you'll get all the full details in there, okay? But let's just go over what we have here on the order book for now. Silver, we have a bearish position. So we're saying right now that silver is very overvalued. It's all over the news. Everyone's been talking about silver, and that's a great time to sell silver. So we're taking a bearish stance on that. And we are hedged in case silver continues to do its. Moderna, we closed that off. We made $379 in profit. Starbucks closed that off. We made $250 in profit. MicroStrategy, we had a bullish bet on that, and it did really well today right out of the open. So we were able to close off our current PCS on that, and we're going to roll that forward to January 23rd, and we're going to collect more credits and keep on generating that income. TSM, I made the executive decision on this just to pause it for a bit. So we pulled off our position. We're going to pause, wait. Earnings come out tomorrow. I think there's a lot of probability that it's going to be a wild swing in case they don't have a good report. So we're just going to take a pause on that. In the next few days after kind of the dust has settled, we'll re-enter our position on TSM. I still hold in TSM. I did put a pause on my option play on that. One of the cool metrics that we're going to start tracking as members from CFU is how much daily profit we're pulling in. So all combined, we pulled in a profit. Now that is not including the credit that we got from TSM. When we put pause on that trade, we made $46 just to pause it. But all in, we have $629 of profit that we realized today. That's 10.66 times your monthly subscription or your M sub. You know, you always hear about Michael Saylor and his MNAV. Well, we're going to go with M sub. And so we're 10.66 M sub right now. That's all we have for you today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. CFU, go to joincfu.com. We have a Discord, a website, a blog, and a newsletter. And you're watching the YouTube channel here right now. Thanks a lot for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.